The Independent National Electoral Commission earlier today suspended the collation of the Adamawa State Supplementary Governorship poll, with results declared for 10 out of the 20 local government areas in the state's governorship supplementary election. Governor Amadou Fintiri is reported to have taken an early lead. Fintiri, who is a candidate of the People's Democratic Party, was declared winner in 7 local government areas, while his All Progressives Congress rival, Senator Aishatu Dairo, came out tops in 3 local government areas. However, reports emerged at some point that the state's resident electoral commissioner, Yunusa Ari, declared the APC governorship candidate winner of the election. In a quick reaction to that development, INEC National Commissioner and Chairman of Information and Voter Education Committee, Festus Okoye, said the action of the Resident Electoral Commission amounted to a usurpation of the powers of the returning officer. Sokoto State Governor and candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Aminu Tambuwal, has won the Sokoto South Senatorial District election. Tambuwal scored a total of 100,660 votes to wrest the Sokoto South Senatorial seat from incumbent Senator Abdullahi Dambaba of the All Progressives Congress, who polled 95,884 votes.
Of the People's Democratic Party, having satisfied the requirement of the law, is hereby declared the winner. And is returned elected.
I've been there for 3 terms unbroken, as member of the House of Representatives, as principal officer, and ultimately as Speaker of the House of Representatives. When I go back, by the grace of God, I will bring all of my experiences to bear on the new assignment. There is not quite much difference between being in the House of Representatives and in the Senate, except, of course, for the additional responsibility that the Senate is having of confirmations of appointments of Mr. President. Otherwise, virtually all of the responsibilities of the Senate outside the confirmations are same with that of the House of Representatives. So I'm not likely to meet anything new. It's a familiar terrain, and I rest assured that I'll give the people of Sokoto South a very effective representation on the floor of the Senate.
Welcome back to This Day Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. Meanwhile, a power struggle between Sudan's army and a notorious paramilitary force has rocked the country, with more than 50 civilians reported dead. Residents dodged gunfire in the capital Khartoum as rival forces battled over the presidential palace, state TV, and army headquarters. At least 56 civilians have been killed in cities and regions around the country, a Sudanese Doctors Committee report said, adding that dozens of military personnel were dead, some of whom had been treated in hospitals. In total, about 595 people had been injured. The clashes erupted after tensions over a proposed transition to civilian rule. Both the army and the opponents, the Rapid Support Forces, claimed they had control of the airport and other key sites in Khartoum, where fighting continued overnight. Earlier today, heavy artillery was heard in Omdurman, which adjoins Khartoum and nearby Bari. Eyewitnesses also reported gunfire in the Red Sea city of Port Sudan. The army said jets were hitting RSF bases, and the country's Air Force told people to remain in their homes on Saturday night while it conducted a full area survey of paramilitary activity. Paul Ejime is a veteran journalist, retired war correspondent, and African affairs analyst. He joins us now. Thank you very much for joining us, Paul Ejime. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Dr. Abati. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, the African Union Peace and Security Council has called a meeting this afternoon asking for ceasefire. Egypt, South Sudan have offered to mediate. The United States, the United Arab Emirates, and also Saudi Arabia have also intervened, calling for peace in Sudan. But it will appear that the two major parties to the conflict are not ready to sit around the table. What are we looking at in Sudan? A likely civil war? Or what do you think?
Thank you for having me. I think Sudan, since 2019, when the strong man Omar Bashir was removed after more than 30 years in power, has not been. That is the consequence of dictatorship. That they never leave room for succession, and when they leave in their trail this type of power struggle. And this time between two military officers, one leading the regular army and then another one leading the paramilitary forces, which is, grew out of Janjaweed, if you people remember that, that were fighting in Darfur, part of Sudan too. So it is a failed state. It is a state that has been rendered ungovernable. The military took over and tried to form military civilian government after Omar Bashir was removed in 2019. But that was again toppled in 2021. And then now we have the military hierarchy, these two generals, General Abu Fattah Boham and then General Mohammed Dogalo. They are now, Abu Fattah is supposed to be the leader, while Dogalo is his deputy. But they cannot see eye to eye. And they have thrown Sudan in this kind of, more or less a civil war. The civilians are the victims of this military fight that is going on. They are using Air Force planes, bombing everywhere. And instead of talking about how to return power to civilians, that is what they have refused to do. And so it is a place of, there is no government there. That is what you can say. Short of saying that is a failed state.
Well, the African Union has suspended Sudan from the African Union. It has called for a cessation of hostilities. What other options are available to the African Union now that you say that the two leaders of the emerging civil war in that country, do not even want to talk? They don't see eye to eye.
This is part of the failure of the regional, continental body, the African Union. You can see that it has stood by while many wars are going, even the one in Ethiopia. It's only now that they are now trying to patch up things after thousands of people have died. And these are avoidable. And Ethiopia is the headquarters of AU. And you will say, if they are unable to quench the fire in that place, what can they do about Sudan that is some hundreds of kilometers away? They lack the political will. They lack the bite. They are not. They don't have the influence. Otherwise, what does it take to? In the past, the AU, the predecessor organization, I think they were more effective in even getting Africa, achieving African decolonization, and then trying to make sure that things work. But now, the leadership of that organization, instead of talking about how to bring stability and peace, remember the last time they were talking about how to give a membership to Israel. These are distraction, things that do not matter. They are not addressing the political, social, economic issue of the continent. one does not expect so much apart from just mentioning them. Remember that the US has been there, UN has come, the League of, the Arab League is also doing, and by the way, South Sudan that also broke away from the main Sudan is also offering to mediate. That tells you how low and how, what do you call it now, how bad the situation has been. It is in the hands of these generals to know that nobody owes them a living. They have to stop this unnecessary bickering or show of power. There is nothing to show. Sudan is not what it used to be. Even al-Bashir, he's still there, moving from house arrest to hospital. Remember, he has been indicted by the International Court. And so many things are not just going right for Sudan. Let Sudan on its own, the greater responsibility lies with this to the military leadership. And then Sudanese themselves. In fairness to the civilians, they were the ones that led the street protests that led to the, dismissal of ending al-Bashir's rule. But the military is now the problem. I think they have to wake up. AU has to stand up. The UN, anybody that can help, the Arab League, whoever can provide any help, assistance for mediation to end this senseless destruction and killing of innocent civilians.
Okay, well, it's good that you talked about the people, the Forces of Freedom and Change. That's the alliance that forced Omar al-Bashir out of power. Well, that group has also called for ceasefire. But is there any other role that that alliance of the people of Sudan can play before these two generals, these warring generals, destroy the country?
They have been sidelined. That alliance, after leading that process that led to the ouster, of al-Bashir. Remember, they had civilians and military in the government from that 2019 until 2021, when the military sacked everybody and then took over. And then now it's left with these two people. General Dagalo has in his force, for the force is about 100,000. How can you have that paramilitary forces in a country with a regular army? That is a recipe for instability. It's a recipe for chaos, for anarchy. And so those who know him, because somebody must be supporting him, they should be the ones to call him to order. And then the other, his colleague, Fatah, they should also call him to say, listen, nothing is gained by killing more people. You don't end any fight by more fights. Sudan has suffered enough from the period of al-Bashir, from even 2019 until date. Nothing has changed. There is no development. There is suffering. And, they are not even talking about, they are supposed to be talking about transition, moving to civilian government. But they are not doing that. And the military cannot offer. These military are not wired to govern. They should understand that. But here, because of loss for power, and then political power, because once they are there, that is the danger. And that's why we in Africa, particularly in West Africa, this is a lesson that you tell them, never allow the military to take over. Civilians must never allow that. Because when they do, it is a case of who is going to take that power back from them. So that is the issue. Here, the international community has a role, the AU has a role, like we have said, Arab League, everybody, Egypt, even South Sudan, the small Sudan that broke away from the bigger one. If they can also help their big brother, let them do the peace is what should prevail. That is what everybody should be talking about.
Well,
Africa can ill afford all these type of distractions. This is Sudan. And then let us go to West Africa, where 3 countries are also under military rule.
Well, on that note, I'd like to thank you very much, Paul Ejime, for joining us on today's edition of This Day Live, this Sunday talk show.